I spent 3 years researching Nibiru flyby-related topics, including catastrophic Earth changes, crop circles, impact events, and future technologies. Welcome to the show, Marshall.
Well, it's nice to be here. Boy, that old bio just keeps following me. I've actually been doing this since 1999. 3 years, it's kind of like that goes back a ways.
I think you got to let George Norrie he's got to change up your bio on the Coast to Coast page, because that's usually where I go to, because there's usually some good bios on there.
That's where it's at. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. I'll just have to. I'll give his producer an email and just ask him to update that a little bit, and that'll be helpful.
That's not the first time it's happened. I think because we have a lot of guests that are on Coast to Coast. We have them on here because I actually use Coast to Coast because I'm an avid listener, and I listen every night when I go to bed, and I lay there in bed and I listen, and so I use it as a tool to hear new guests or whatever to get on the show. So I tend to use the bio that they have there because I figure it's usually up to date because it's Coast to Coast. But we have run a couple. I think there's been a couple other instances where they weren't up to date, and I've actually changed a couple myself because I noticed that they were quite a bit out of date. So yeah. Anyway, that's where your bio came from. So.
Well, now I know. Thank you so much. I can track that wily wascal down.
Yeah. So, Marshall, it's been coming up a little bit here and there on the show. We have done a show on Planet X before. We had Bob Fletcher on, and he was on for 2 hours talking about it, and. But we obviously got into more than Planet X. We got into some other things. But anyway, so it's been coming up a little bit here and there. So I figured, well, I'll get another guest on instead of Bob this time. Maybe someone that has maybe some different point of view. And of course, I heard you were on Coast to Coast somewhat recently, and I didn't hear it that night because I fell asleep because it comes on at 1 o'clock in the morning over here, and so. I have a Coast Insiders account, so I can listen to that stuff the next morning. So I listened to your interview. And you were on I'm pretty sure you were on the same night. The second guest was Mark Sargent about the flat Earth theory. So, and we even did a show on the flat Earth here because we think it's a little crazy. We don't believe that the Earth is flat. I don't know what your opinion is on that. We don't even need to get into it. I really don't want to. But anyways,
it's above my pay grade.
Yeah,
let's just leave it at
that. and we try not to give it too much attention anyway. But and I actually thought about maybe having that Mark Sargent on the show because the other guy that has this documentary and whatever, we don't really like him anyway. He just was kind of really off-putting. Didn't seem, I don't know. But anyway, we have you on to talk about Planet X. Maybe you got some new information that we could talk about, but I'm curious. What was it? You were working for CNN. Now, did you start getting into that stuff while you were working there?
No, that was back in the '80s when it was really a news. Now, I agree with Larry King. It's the Cartoon News Network.
Yeah.
It's a joke compared to what it was when I was there. When I was there, it was a lean, mean news machine, and it was an amazing time to be involved with that organization. But that was before there was all the consolidation where just a handful of corporations own all the media. Mm-hmm. They've turned it all into this Orwellian propaganda machines. And so that was a time. It was really cool. I remember.
So it was really a time when they actually reported news then, and they actually went after stories.
Yeah, if you remember CNN in the old days, I mean, Turner was running it when I was in. It was something else. I would go in and meet with producers out on the newsroom floor. As you remember, they used to see all the reporters sitting at their desks because they were actually doing investigative reporting. Who'd have thought it? And, man, to be honest with you, I didn't enjoy those visits because, I mean, the tension in that room, you could cut it with a knife. I used to walk out of there with chest pains. Jeez, it was tough. There was so much competition. Now they just read what's given to them.
Yep.
But different days altogether. And I moved to Texas and then got into the computer industry. And when you're in television, eventually you either get rich or you grow up and go somewhere else.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, and it got me here, but it was natural curiosity of things. I had a travel business going to Russia, and that was really what started me down the path, because in the 90s I was going from taking the polar route on Aeroflot to from San Francisco to Moscow. And it might surprise people, but the Russians make more comfortable passenger jets than we do. And on the way back, it was always during the day. And first time, it was 2003, January, and I saw the Arctic, and grew up in Arizona, and I mean, this was the first time I'd seen blue ice. When I saw it the first time, it was just beautiful, vast expanses of snow and rock outcroppings, blue ice. I was mesmerized for hours, and especially by the blue ice, because that's old ice, and the only time I ever saw blue ice when I was a kid in Phoenix was you went to 7-Eleven, put some in a cone, and they'd pour some blue syrup on it, and that was all I knew about blue ice. And I watched it steadily over the years. I quit my travel business in '98, and my last trip over the Arctic was in '98, and what I saw was a steady deterioration over the years. Always was flying over in December, back in January, because that's how I ran my business. And, I came on that last trip, and it just looked like the whole Arctic looked like the busted windshield of a wrecked car in the junkyard. And I said, man, they can call me a tree hugger. I got to figure this out. And that's what really started me on the path of trying to understand global warming, or what we call weather change. And that was something where we were looking to see if the man-made causes were the principal engine of it. We didn't see enough evidence of that. I mean, we put out a lot of carbon, but to be blunt, a couple of good volcano farts will do as much. And, we started looking at the sun, and solar radiance was increasing, has been since 1940. And then we were wondering, okay, well, if this is a solar-driven thing, that would be consistent that the atmospheres of the other bodies in our system would be perturbed like Earth. Well, that's exactly what we found. All right. So every planet with an atmosphere is showing atmospheric perturbations, weirdness. Matter of fact, Mars had a period of warming so intense that if something like that were to happen here on Earth, we would become extinct as a species.
Right.
So this is pretty serious, and that then led us, I was doing this work with a couple other folks who are like myself, Mensons, and Mens is a society for people who have genius IQs and are socially challenged. And we were really looking at, all right, it's solar radiance. Is this something that is a normal solar cycle, or is there something else? And sunspot activity, these kind of records go back 300 years. We weren't seeing anything in that period of time that was consistent with it. No ancient folklore or historical reports. So at that point, we started looking at the possibility of the sun interacting with another body in our system that we're not aware of, an interloper, if you will. And that was our path to Planet X, which is actually a mini constellation. We are in a binary system. Now, for those that can remember, back to the 70s and the 80s, there was actually a whole lot of very intelligent conversation about it by professional astronomers and by the media. However, there was a mysterious death of a U.S. naval astronomer Robert Harrington. He was the chief astronomer there in Washington at the observatory. And this was after he kind of, I guess, did 3 strikes and you're out. First was he wrote a brilliant paper on Planet X. Second was he had a special telescope constructed and sent to a United States observatory in New Zealand, which all of the image plates that were, all of that was captured, was sent to NASA and never seen again. And he gave an interview to Zecharia Sitchin, author of The 12th Planet, and actually showed during the interview Planet X in the orbit of Planet X, and he's pointing it out. Then, not long after that, he dies of a mysterious quick-onset cancer that has been known to be used in targeted assassinations. Yep. And after his death, the topic hit the wall. I mean, it's just like we trended all the data, the amount of reporting by, major publications, the Trib, New York Times, Post, you name it. And then right after Harrington's death, boom, like that, all went dark. And pretty much stayed that way. So, and we actually document that on our site. And in my video, Planet X 101, Who, What, Why, Where, When, and How, if you watch that, you just go to my website, yowusa.com, click on the video link, and I have a 100-minute course. You can watch that. In 100 minutes, you'd get the equivalent of what would normally take most people 2 to 3 years of study to figure out. And in there, you get to 1988, because I present the whole chronology of it going back a few hundred years. And there is an astronomer for NASA, his name is Anderson, still on the payroll, who said, yes, we're in a binary system, and yes, there is a Planet X. So, of course, once I brought that out public, the Google database where we found the news accounts was expunged, and I was thoroughly smashed for that and harassed. But that's just, that's the way life is in this genre. It's coming, and it's going to be here. But the truth is, people cling to the bliss of their ignorance like jealous lovers. And, it's like ufology. We published videos with images, tracking, it doesn't matter. It's like ufology. You can have piles and piles and piles and piles and piles and piles and piles of photographs, testimony, and people go, well, I don't know about that.
Oh, of course.
All right. So that's it. But I find that the people really who do get it and want to get through it are people who have been in awareness since they were children. Interestingly enough, that's a recurring pattern.
Sure.
And as for the rest, the ones that are going, they're all crazy as peach orchard boars. Okay. Well, let's be honest. It's a global tribulation that's coming, and somebody's got to do the die-in. So it's better that the ones who are mocking those who are in awareness stand up and fall left and right. Good for them.
Heck yeah.
There you go, Michael.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
We were talking about this yesterday.
But I'll tell you, the one place and I tell my folks that there's going to come a time, an event I call the rage. And that is when all these people who have been laughing at everyone else are going, oh my God, we're going to die because we've been lied to. They're going to get mad. They're going to hit the streets. They're going to want to riot. They're going to, what you got to do is when they do that, they go one way, you go the opposite direction. Yeah. Better yet, you just don't want to be anywhere around all of that in the first place. And because we got a government that has acquired 1.6 billion rounds of hollow point ammunition, and they're going to use it. It'll make Kent State look like, a finger bowl compared to the entree they're going to serve up. Won't be tear gas, it won't be water cannons. It'll be 2 warnings, and then they'll open up with machine guns, and there'll be a whole lot of dead bodies laying around, and then people will get the message, shut up your face. And it worked at Kent State, for those that can remember, the riots and the protests over Vietnam.
I don't remember, but I know the story well.
Yeah, Kent State brought all that to a screeching halt. That was it. Boom. All the protests stopped.
Yeah.
Because now they were using real bullets.
Real
It'll
bullets.
be the same thing all over again. It'll just be Kent State, but the body count will be pretty steep.
And you never hear about that. You never hear about Kent State.
No, you never do. Never do. You know, it's kind of like,
Sad.
you know, it's kind of like bastard children. You keep them out of the will.
Kind of like everything else the government's done. You just
Yeah.
keep it out of sight, out of mind.
Well, but you know, the interesting thing is when we do see it, everyone's going to turn to the government, and government's going to say, well, we didn't say anything because, frankly, it's just going to pass by without making any big trouble, and we didn't want to start something people get all upset and bent out of shape for nothing and so forth. So don't worry about it. And you know what'll happen? People will go,
okay, sure. Well, that's what happens. 40, 50, 60 years will go by, and something will get declassified and, proven to be true. And, you have your, quote, conspiracy theorists that are like, hey, see, told you so. And the rest of the population says, who cares? No big deal. For our protection, for our safety, etc.
Well, yeah, I mean, being a conspiracy theorist is like perpetual life of being an unrequited lover, You never quite get the satisfaction.
That's a funny comparison, yeah.
It's true, though.
Yeah, it's, the signs are there. Things are, it's going in that direction. Bob Fletcher is, I had him on my podcast, and I did a published interview on him earlier this year, and he's pretty spot on. Yeah, the difference is that he comes at this from a government conspiracy angle and follows the money, which is pretty smart.
Yep.
I follow the science, so I'm a more science oriented because I'm a retired computer systems analyst. And just goes to my nature.
That's why I thought it would be good to have him on and then have you on, because you guys, you're both, got the same thing, but like you just said, like you're science, he's money, so I figured get you guys both on the show, give kind of different perspectives, I guess if you want to call it different perspectives, but yeah.
Well, I think his prediction that he made that martial law will precede the appearance of Planet X by 6 months. It's pretty good. Seems like that's where it's definitely headed. We got Jade Helm.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. So you think there's a something between Jade Helm and Planet X, or?
Nah, what do you think?
So my aunt thinks it's going to happen in March next year. Huh? Actually, my aunt thinks it's going to come in March next year. Next March.
Yeah, could be.
Have you heard anything of when it might happen?
Yeah, what's your
in my book, Being in It for the Species, I have a tribulation timeline, and we'll know we're on the tribulation timeline when an event called the Winter of Ash happens, and that's when we have a whole slew of volcanic eruptions on the western side of the Rim of Fire. Now, that's not going to create death toll, but it is going to have dramatic economic and political ramifications. It will affect Americans because these people over there are going to have their farms are going to be covered in ash, so they're going to have to get food elsewhere, which means all of this cheap food that's coming up into the United States from other places is going to go to the highest bidder. And that means it's going to head towards the other side of the Pacific, and what we're going to see in the grocery store will be higher prices and some skimpy shelves. And that's when people are going to get a sense of, are we in deep kimchi? And, of course, there will be the gratuitous, don't worry, which reminds me of that great line from the movie 2012, when they tell you that not to worry, that's when you run, But
well,
that's what's going to happen. You know, I'll basically tell you guys, wherever you plan to plant your tuchus, okay, get it done this year, all right? Because next year, forget about it. If you ain't there, you ain't there, and you ain't going to get there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So going back to the Jade Hellman in this situation, obviously you laughed pretty extensively. It goes hand in hand. Then you.
Jade Hellman, they ought to call it Operation Walmart. You know.
Oh yes, I wanted to. Yeah, Operation Walmart.
Yeah, you know, the blue light military or something. It's really funny. I think it's hysterical to watch these comedians in New York tell the folks in Texas, you're paranoid. Well, gee, their state has been designated a hostile state, whereas where the comedians who are mocking them, they're not being declared anything. It's really easy to laugh at somebody when you're, not the one looking down the gun barrel. And Jade Helm is the way they're setting these things up. They're basically using the Walmarts as forward operating bases, FOBs.
So what do you think about the Zetatalk website?
The what site?
Zetatalk.com. They've been following this Planet X thing for, 15 years now?
I haven't even heard of that.
I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, Nancy Leader, I think her name is, Leider.
Oh, you mean Zetatalk?
Zetatalk, sorry, yeah.
Zetatalk. Well, Nancy and I always seemed to have a good working relationship, and when other people were criticizing her, I never got involved. But now she is name-calling. She's accusing, like she accused me of working for the government.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, well, if that's so, where in the hell's my damn dental benefits? And, Nancy is, oh, to hell with it. I think she's just as crazy as a peach orchard dwarf. Let's leave it at that.
I think, yeah, absolutely. She's really, she's a good guy, and he's there for the thing.
Hey, Jeff, you're breaking out.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
No, she thinks that Obama is a good guy and that he's going to help us through the passage.
Oh, well, she must be crazy.
Yeah.
Either that, or she belongs to a really good cannabis co-op.
Yeah. I want to get into that, yeah. Get whatever she's smoking.
I mean, I just, I remember 2003, Nancy created one hell of a panic and scared a hell of a lot of people, okay? Yep. And she came on my show, and she said that it was the only time the Zetas ever lied to her, and they did it because they wanted to trick George Bush into invading Iraq.
Okay. Okay.
Wow. Of course, now you understand that story has changed and evolved about 1,700 times since then. And but there are a lot of people that follow her work that actually do some good, interesting stuff. But I just I don't know what her problem is. I mean, I'm busy enough with my own work. I don't have to go make scandals on anyone else. I never did that before. But what the heck,
attention seekers. That's all
I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know what.
Can't put your finger on it.
Well, it's not even that. It's like I'm not even interested. I'm busy moving.
You don't have the time to even. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, I mean. If you got the time for scandals, okay, fine. That's your bag. To me, it's not about being right. It's about getting it right.
Yep.
It's a perpetual search for the truth. That's all. Yep. And so, I mean, for me, it doesn't bother me over the years. I have people, slander me and slime me, and I don't get down in the gutter with them because actually. They grow my audience. They help me.
They do.
I mean, I'm serious,
I know.
because it's like schoolyard politics. It's like, we want to go see who's getting a whooping, And they come to my website, and all of a sudden they go, damn, this guy's got integrity. He's doing good stuff, you know. And sure enough, the more they pound on me, the more, it's like Nietzsche said, what don't kill you make you stronger. And it really works for me. So, I get all these emails from my loyal followers. Have you heard the newest scandal that she has? And I said, I don't care. It grieves them terribly. But, I'm just going, Nancy, bring it on, baby. Bring it on. You're growing me.
Well, like, bad publicity is good publicity, too,
Hey, that's
How's
right.
That go? Any publicity is good publicity.
There is no bad publicity.
Right. Exactly.
And when was the last time you remember Nancy being on Coast?
Oh.
Think about it.
Oh, there you go.
A long time.
Doesn't that put it in perspective? So, but heck, guys, this doesn't feel like an interview. I feel like we're sitting here in the pub, and it's like one of us is going to pay for the next round.
That's how it always is on the show.
Yeah,
we don't do interviews. We just conversations.
We chill out, man. We're just chilling.
So a lot of people I think personally that Planet X is 4 times bigger than Earth. A lot of people claim that it's like 10 times or larger.
Well, it's actually a mini constellation. You have a brown dwarf at the center.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I thought Nibiru was tiny.
Then you have planets and moons around that. So, in my book, Being In for the Species, we have Nemesis, the dark star, at the center of the system, and then you have going outwards from that, Helion, which is a gaseous planet, uninhabited, Arbota, and then Nibiru. Arbota is inhabited by slave species, and of course Nibiru is home world of those wonderful folks we knew as the Anunnaki.
Oh yeah, beautiful people.
Yes. Sure.
I just wish they would leave this planet for good.
You guys, a good book to read is The Lost Book of Enki.
Yes, that's a great book.
Published. That's a fun book. It's kind of like Game of Thrones with horny aliens and spaceships.
Yep.
I would definitely
he slept with a lot of his family members.
Well, actually, if you read the book literally, we came from the loins of Lord Enki of the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
I mean, Earth girls are easy. At least that's what they figured. And sure seems to work that way. So, and Enki, I mean, if it moved, he nailed it. A guy had enough. Man, he had more sex drive than a Hollywood, casting couch.
Yeah.
He was an amazing fellow, but it's a book well worth reading. It's a real wake-up call. You find out the Anunnaki actually invented the very first calendar for our planet, a lunar calendar, which is, we have a solar calendar, which was bequeathed to us for political purposes by the Pope Gregory. And, and it's just, our solar calendar, it's got white man's disease. Things just don't happen on when they should. And it's like, when's the solstice? Got to look that one up. Leap years, we got to reach all that. Lunar calendar, baby, that's it. It's like a Timex, keeps on, takes a lick and keeps on ticking. And, but he invented the first calendar, 12 cycles of the moon, comprising a year, 24-hour days. And, however, just 2 seasons, summer and winter. Only goes to prove he comes from Phoenix, Arizona. And,
right.
In Phoenix, that's it. You got summer, you got winter. And the difference blurs. The 4 seasons, I guess, had to come out of Europe where they are 4 seasons. But, today, the Hebrew calendar is lunar. The Mayans had a lunar calendar. Islam uses a lunar calendar. It's if you look at how many different beliefs and systems, they go by the lunar calendar, and that we found that to be really important because we have been working on the Avebury crop circle and going back, and we revisited that and doing some more decoding work on it. And what we really found was that when Sitchin said 3,600-year orbit for Nibiru, he was actually doing a literal translation of the Sumerian text, and the Sumerians and the Mayans and the Anunnaki all used lunar calendars. On a solar calendar, it actually is not 3,600 years, it's 3,548 and change. And so when you correct for that differential, all of a sudden, boom, dead on hit, last flyby.
And didn't
was Exodus.
1500 BC or something like that.
Yeah. So once you recalibrate for a solar calendar duration, boom, you're right on for Exodus. It actually is. We've had 4 previous flybys, and the last one was Exodus. Then there was a couple of good case scenarios. A best case scenario is when this thing comes through, it reaches its point of perihelion, closest distance to the sun, then it heads south back into the southern skies. That's the aphelion leg of its orbit. And when it crosses over Earth's orbit after going into aphelion, a best case scenario is we're on the other side of the sun. A worst case scenario is we're on the same side of the sun. Exodus was a best case scenario because we were on the opposite side of the sun. However, the deluge, Noah's flood, that was a worst case scenario where Earth was on the same side of the sun as the Nemesis systems. Planet X system was crossing well over the orbit of Earth. And so happens that's what it's going to be this time. It's going to be a worst case scenario, and we're going to have a pole shift. And if you boys ever heard of something called the Georgia Guidestones?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Talked about them quite a few times, yeah.
All right. By the way, one of you guys needs to order another pitcher of beer. And so we're running low here. But
very good.
You're chugging it, guys. Come on, slow down. But the last time that was, Noah's flood was actually a pole shift event. You see, it's not where it rains for, according to Bill Cosby, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and then the sewers backed up. But the truth of it is it's a sloshing effect. That's what really happens. The oceans come out of their basins because the Earth really stops in its spin, turns the other way, starts spinning the other direction, and that's what takes the oceans out of their basins. Now, in the book I publish, the Colburn Bible, the ancient Egyptians have a very detailed account of the last flyby, which was the plagues of Exodus. And I'm talking really, really detailed stuff. It's not this kind of, the princess shot the arrow into the sky, and the dragon fell and all that. No, I mean, you read the Colburn Bible, and it is man on the street stuff. Man on the street. It is that sharp, that clear, that focused. And what they tell us is that when we see this thing, it's going to cause so much fear that men are going to become impotent and women are going to become infertile. Now, when you take and put that in perspective, that when, used to be at that time, unless you were an aristocrat, you didn't live beyond your 30s, all right? And when you stop to think about it, here's something we'll see in the sky that literally is going to scare the sex out of a teenager. And I'm not saying that to be funny. All right?
It's not going to scare the sex out of me.
It'll scare the sex out of everybody. And, you're going to go to the bunker going, I got a headache, honey. And so that's going to be the tough part of it. But this is it is going to have a profound effect. And for the people who are prepared for it, they'll get through it. But, the Georgia Guidestones, and your listeners can look that up, those were constructed by a secret society in Georgia.
With the Rosicrucians, right?
Well, who knows? Nobody took it. could have been anybody, you know.
His initials on the guidestone was something like RC.
Okay, RC. You know, I mean, you know, it could have been Southwest Airlines frequent flyer. I don't know.
Nice.
We don't. Nobody knows for sure. But I'll tell you one thing: it was produced by a secret society because it has precise celestial alignment. So it has the attributes of a monument that is the type of thing that these people would construct, and it has basically 10 commandments for the 21st century. And the first one is to keep humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. But here's the kick: it doesn't say how we get there. All right, and so what we're really looking at in terms of people dying, 1 in 7 will survive approximately. And that means death is going to touch everybody. Everybody. Everyone's going to lose someone, or they're going to die. You know, it's going to be a tough time. And you're either prepared for it or you're not.
So,
Marshall,
Noah's flood, I was wondering, because I thought Enlil caused the flood.
No, Enlil, what Enlil did, and boy, I'll tell you, you know, when they come back, if Enki's in charge of things, we're going to catch a break. If Enlil's in charge of things, we're in deep kimchi. And Enlil, and this is in the Lost Book of Enki, what Enlil did was he withheld information about the coming flood, and so that there would be the maximum dieback of the human species. And also Enlil saw to it that the first use of nuclear weapons on Earth, and created a radiological plague that was devastating and caused a huge loss of life. So Enlil not once but twice tried to exterminate our species. That's the reason why I say if he's in charge of things, when the Anunnaki return, it's tough darts farmer. Not going to be nice. And they are going to return.
I want them to just go away and leave the planet for good. Never come back.
Well, you know, that would be nice. You know. But truth is, they're coming for gold, and they're coming for women.
They can take the Bushes and the Clintons with them.
Marshall, I got a question for you. I combed your site a little bit. I didn't see it. What about the dinosaurs? Did Planet X have an effect on them?
Actually, you know, my very first article that I wrote on Planet X raised that very question. Dr. Brian Marston of the Smithsonian Astrophysics Lab helped me write that article, or do the research, for that article. And we raised that very question. Could it have been a situation where in a previous flyby it triggered the Deccan Traps eruption in India, as well as an impact event? You know, the thing of it is that when this star system comes around, you know, it's like the carnival. You know, here comes the clowns. First, then comes the pachyderms, and then behind them the guys with the, you know, the buckets and the shovels. And you know, we're just going to have all kinds of stuff that's going to be hitting us, impacting us, causing all kinds of problems. You betcha.
Sure.
So
very probable then.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, in my book, we actually, the last major cataclysmic event of the tribulation will be transiting the tail. And that's when we fly through the vast dust tail of the Nemesis system, which is going to contain a lot of iron oxide, dust, and a lot of, we're going to have meteor showers, meteor storms that are really going to be nasty. Kind of, it reminds me of that old movie, Enemy Mine. Remember years ago with Lou Gossett Jr. And the Xerxes, you know, the impact events, and it's really going to pound the dickens out of us, and that's going to be hard on folks because their strength and endurance is going to be mightily taxed by everything, and these meteorite showers are going to wipe out a lot of people, hopes and dreams, because they'll they'll have a period of quiescence. This disaster is going to come in pulses. It's not going to be continuous, and there'll be a period of time. And see, that's the shame of it, is that the people who are going to suffer even that are never going to know what the hell's coming, because all of this is withheld. I mean, what the elites want is simply to reduce the human population as much as possible. They want the greatest possible.
Do you think they really want that, though?
Huh?
Do you think they really want that?
Of course they do, Michael.
Because I
hear this. Oh, tell me it isn't so. You know,
well,
I mean, these people
we're worth money to them. You know,
these people
we're
are
not worth
money cats. Okay, I
Michael,
mean, look. Here's
we're
the
not
thing.
worth money to them. Okay, they already got all our money. Like I said the other night, when you drain someone of all their assets, they're no longer useful. They got all their money, dude. They have all the money in the world. They don't need it.
But when you have more workers, you can get even more money.
They don't need any more.
They
don't
need more workers. Guys, what they're going to do, fellas, is they're going to come up from their bunkers and they're going to tell the survivors, guess what? We've got seeds, Svalbard Doomsday. You know, go to the Svalbard Doomsday Seed site. And, you know, that's the one that was financed by folks like Monsanto, and the poster child is Bill Gates. Go see if on that website it says, we're doing this for the love of humanity and we will share these freely with everyone. Tell me where you find that on the website, okay? What they're going to do is, after everyone's had the snot beat out of them, they're going to come up and say, we've got food, medicine, construction materials, and seeds. If you want them, you consign yourself to slavery. And the fewer people that are left, the more their little stash of inducements is going to do for them. It's going to be more attractive the fewer people they have to share it with. Now, as far as it goes, having more workers, oh, come on, guys. We're prodigious. We breed like freaking rabbits. Give us a case of Ripple wine and a bottle of Viagra tablets, and we can work wonders.
Oh.
You know? So, you know, we're not human beings. They see themselves as the human beings, or whatever they think they are.
Right.
We're what's called eaters, okay?
Useless eaters.
We're eaters, and we are expendable.
You're right.
And we are a renewable resource. And for them, it is about restoring their control and enslavement of our species. And that is the reason why they want us to die like rats. Okay?
No, you're right.
Although,
I agree 100%. So listen, guys, we have to. We're running a little late. We have to take our 10:30 break here.
And I'm just going to talk about Planet X.
Yeah.
His next album.
Yes.
Planet X. All right. Anyway.
That'd be
sorry.
So I figured I'd bring this up. I know Michael is right now is reading the 12th Planet, right, Michael?
Oh yeah, I am. Yep.
So are you
pretty
just
interesting?
You just getting into his books, or is that your first?
Well, I read Gerald Clark's book, and the Anunnaki of Nibiru, and I thought that was cool. So I checked out Zechariah Sitchin's work, and I got all of the Earth Chronicles.
Ooh, the Earth Chronicles are great. It's been about 10, 15 years since I've read them. I'd like to reread them, though, because, to be honest, I don't really remember a whole lot from the books, other than, you know, the stuff that we talk about on the show, but anyway, yes. So I'm sure...
Yeah, Marshall was going over it earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
12 months in a year, 12 hours, twice a day, 12 celestial bodies. There's got to be a 12th planet. 12 gods of the Sumerians.
There's actually a lot more than 12. There's a few that they just don't care to identify as planets. So, Marshall, I have a question for you.
Fire away.
There was a few people claiming that when Planet X passes us, that it's going to wipe our memories clean. Do you know anything about that?
I haven't heard that one. It's new to me, but that's interesting.
Yeah, like the electromagnetic...
What were we talking about?
What am I doing?
You know, God, I mean, I just stick with the science. I mean, there's There's more cockamamie theories than I can keep a track of. Honest to God, guys. There's just more cockamamie theories than I can believe. And, you know, what are you going to do?
That is good. I can just picture a whole bunch of, like, a world just full of, infants. Memories completely gone.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
No idea what's going on.
Yeah, they were claiming, like, you have to wear a copper helmet or something.
Oh, my.
Well, you know, guys.
Where are you getting this stuff, Jeff? What?
You know, people have just all kinds of theories and ideas.
Oh,
all right. And to be honest, there's only one thing that really works. That's the Boy Scouts motto. And that's it. Be prepared. As far as it goes to the rest of it, excuse me, I've never been through a global cataclysm. Have you?
Right.
Not in this lifetime.
No. I mean, everybody has. We just published an article on the Mayan calendar and Planet X. And before December 21, 2012, I was asked, was there a correlation between the two? And I used to say, no, I don't see anything. It's coincidental. Because at that time, there was no evidence linking it. All we had was speculation, cable networks that were just sponging up money like crazy on it, all kinds of what-if hysterical stuff. So on one hand, you know, it's going to smash into us and it's the end of us, melancholia, have a nice day. Right. On the other hand, you know, we got the rupturites that are going to get raptured out. Then on the other hand, we've got the New Agers who are going, we're all going to wake up and sing Let's Buy the World a Coke. It was all over the map. And in the final analysis, it was a non-event. And yet, what we have discovered was that it wasn't a non-event. All right? But there was a direct correlation that the Mayans, in fact, were looking for Planet X.
Sure.
Because you have to look at the data, the empirical data that has been accumulated since December 21, 2012. Not before, but since. Because if you're looking for a harbinger event, a celestial alignment, that means, okay, after this, the guacamole hits the fan. Well, that's what happened. We looked at two empirical data sets. One is meteors and the other is earthquake. And right after December 21, 2012, the two of them just took off like skyrockets, straight up. Okay? So what they were looking for was, okay, is this going to be the end of it? Or, you know, is this thing coming and is it going to, you know, are we going to have a big boo-boo? All right? Well, there you go. Yeah. And the thing is, we can have all kinds of speculation, and people do it. I mean, to be honest, I call it mental masturbation. All right, because it's a whole lot easier than having to face the reality that you know you do something constructive about planning and preparation. So if they're going, you know, and what about this theory, and what about that theory, and what about this theory, and what about that theory, and what about this theory, you know, and then I get the letters all the time from people. I call them the bullfrogs because they're like big old bullfrogs, and they sit there and they go, when, you know,
that's awesome.
Get a life. Better yet, get a plan. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I want to know.
Okay, Marshall, you keep mentioning that, which I agree with you 100%. What do you think is the best plan of action? Like, what's the best thing to do to prepare?
Do something. I mean, you're going to have to. You know, I have published all of my books are about survival and preparation. Okay.
Sure.
If folks, you want to do something, you can go to my website, yowza.com. There's a lot of information there. I'm doing survival wellness advocacy for people who want to have a survival vocation that will make them worth their weight in beans to a survival community. I talk to survival issues all the time and what people have to do. All right? And it's, you know, the thing is you're looking at a tribulation of 7 to 10 years.
Right.
And so going out and getting a 3-day supply of water and flashlight batteries ain't going to cut it.
Isn't going to cut it, no.
All right?
No
so,
way.
you know, I just published God's Mission in Planet X. Because the first thing anyone who writes on the topic and has any serious gravitas is going to tell you is that you got to get right with God. Of course, then after that, they're like comedians who forget the punchline to their joke. And they just leave you hanging there. So I went ahead and answered that question, at least from my own personal perspective. But that's really the first thing you have to do is you have to decide, you have to accept responsibility for the information and the knowledge. But, you know, think about Noah and the flood. That's an excellent story. Because every time I've talked to a whistleblower, every one of them says the same exact thing. It's like it's stitched into their brains for some reason. They all say, now I know how Noah felt. All right? Now, we all know the biblical story. Noah spent 100 years telling everybody this was going to come. And what did they do? They laughed at him, went up to his wife and said, hey, your hubby is one short of a six-pack. He's not the brightest bulb on the tree. All that kind of nonsense. Then all of a sudden, here comes the water, and guess who is beating their fists on the hull of the ark? Like that. Let us in. Ready for that conversation.
Right.
Okay? Did Noah open the door? No. Now, why don't you guys, let's see if you can, I mean, there's a right answer to this question, and I will tell you, only 1 in 10 will get the right answer. Why did Noah refuse to open the door of the ark to all these yutzes out there that had been mocking and ridiculing him, and now they're banging on the hull, treading water, and pleading for their lives, and he doesn't open the door? Why?
Because they were assholes. They weren't smart enough. They don't
want to restart the planet with those types of people anyway.
Right.
Bingo! The 1 in 10. All right? Look, here's the full answer. Okay? I like the first one better, though, personally. But, you know, they're assholes. You know, like, afangu you know? And, but, look, Noah was the naval architect, commander, and master of a vessel charged with the restoration of terrestrial life on the planet following a global catastrophe. Now, I'm sure when Noah's sitting in the ark and he's hearing them go, we're ready for the conversation, Noah, okay, and he's not opening the door, I'm sure that man cried. He cried for he had humanity in his soul. But he couldn't open the door because if he did, I'll tell you what would happen over the course of the following 4 days. If he opened up the dark and let him in, on day 1, everybody would be singing his praises. Noah the magnificent, Noah the wonderful, Noah the wise. Day 2, they would form a committee and elect a new captain of the ark. Day 3, the new captain of the ark would throw Noah and his family overboard for sedition. Day 4, the ark would burn and sink, and the mission would fail. Okay? In other words, if you're not prepared for what is going to happen, you're a loose cannon on deck.
Yep.
And you're most likely going to turn into some freakazoid monster. All right? That's the reason why the people that I see preparing, frankly, have been aware of what's coming since they were children. All right? I call it awareness, but it's really a long goodbye because they have been mourning the end of life as we know it for the vast majority of their lives. And most of them are in their 40s and older. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
So you have rare exceptions, you have younger ones, and whatnot. But the thing is, most people, all right, who survive this, the ones who survive, the elites, they're going to be in their deep underground bunkers. I can tell you, when you start seeing Gulfstreams and Lear jets and all forms of private hot rods littering the tarmac at Denver International like a bad case of the measles, dying time is near, they're going to the bunkers, all right? And, but they're worried about it because this new sinkhole phenomena is something that's come up since they did all of their planning. And their bunkers are nice, snug, and safe, but if a sinkhole opens up under a bunker, doesn't matter. It's gone. It just falls right through. Boom. Crushes. And so I don't think the elites are going to do as well as they thought. Like the Nazis love to say, nothing ever goes according to plan.
Right.
And that'll be the case for them. I think, by and large, those on the surface will have about as much chance of surviving as those below. Obviously, you live on a coastline, you live on a major fault line, you live next to a volcano. Hey, you know what they say in the 3 golden rules of prime real estate: location, location, location. Everyone that's living along coastlines, and that's the majority of humanity, that's what's going to, on the initial events, that is going to be the big killer.
Right. And what about, you bring that up, what about like the fracking areas and stuff? Are those going to be affected a little bit more now?
Man. That is a heart pain for me. I look at a combination. The natural disasters are bad, but I mean, they pass. Okay?
Right.
You know, and earthquakes kill, but actually, it's buildings that collapse in earthquakes that kill.
Yes.
All right. Between the nuke plants and the nuke plants. I mean, the industrial accident scale is going to be simply horrific. It's like death by design between actually the fracking, the nuke plants, and GMO. Those 3 things are going to kill millions and millions of people. The fracking, the well casing, concrete well casings have, on a best case scenario, a 30-year lifespan. A small percentage of them actually fail the first day the well goes active. However, you have something like the New Madrid, San Andrea. They go off, and they go off big. That's kind of everywhere in the country. They're going to feel it. And so these concrete well casings are all going to crack and shatter, which means the toxic brew of chemicals that they use to make those wells is going to start seeping up into the aquifers and then into the land, and then you're going to see, you know, brown dead land and poisoned water. And we already see a good example of that. That's already happening in a lot of areas, and it's been documented. There's just a massive amount of cover-up thanks to our wonderful mainstream media, corporate media. In terms of the nuke plants, Matt Stein, the author of When Technology Fails, wrote an excellent article on that. We could have 140 Fukushimas. They can scram the reactor cores, but you still have to keep cooling them for a couple of years. All right. Well, what happens if there's no electricity for the plant to run the pumps to cool the reactors, even after you've scrammed them? All right. Boom. Fukushimas all over the place. So we're going to have massive numbers of radiological disasters. You don't want to live with, you want to know where nuke plants are, where the prevailing winds are, and you want to be somewhere else. Fracking, I think future generations are going to remember Tom Ridge as the Mengele of fracking death. Pennsylvania used to be one of the prime areas, actually. I used to recommend, when I first started doing this, I do what's survival relocation analysis. I have webinars I do. You can find them on my website. And help people with trying to figure out where the heck they got to bust a move to. And I used to have a lot more choices before fracking, but my God, places like North Dakota, forget about it. Pennsylvania, forget about it. New York, forget about it. Entire swaths of land that would have actually been sustainable now are just going to become industrial wastelands, poison lands, death lands, and they'll be that way for 100 years until Mother Nature can clean up the mess.
Well, that's not good. I'm in Pennsylvania.
Well, yeah. Location.
Yeah, I'm in Maine. Me and Chris.
Maine's a lot better. I want to get to Maine.
Well, look at it this way. You'll never run out of light. All you got to do is strike a match to your well, and you'll have perpetual light. Not that you'll want to drink what comes out of the well. Maybe use that burning chemical to distill off the water. There are some spots, north central, that you just really got to look around and see really hard. A vast majority of Pennsylvania. I mean, Pennsylvania is on the western border, and on the eastern border has the nuke problems. In the center, it used to be great because what the three characteristics I like for land are soft earth, rolling hills, and access to water. And Pennsylvania, New York, these places used to, they have it. The problem is they have fracking, and it's just going to poison the hell out of all of that, and it's a damn shame.
Exactly. Sure. So, Marshall, we do have some callers. I don't know if you're interested in talking to some callers and asking some questions.
Sure.
Yeah, but hopefully, the caller.
Yes.
We should remind
anybody that's calling in, say what you got to say, and that's it. No.
Try to keep it under 30 seconds.
Well, try to keep it under a minute or two. 30 seconds,
right.
That's not very much, but if you got a question or two, that's great. But not like the last caller that was on where I wasn't on the show. You guys just kept letting talk. Anyway.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah, I can't say too much because I know who she is. So. She told you that like 5 times. Like, I went to school with Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah,
anyway.
her name was Melissa.
Yeah, Melissa, Missy. Anyway, so let's go to a caller. Caller, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, man.
Anybody there?
Hello.
Maybe he was just calling to listen.
Maybe
It's a
just
50-50.
Calling in to listen. I know, man. People call in because not everyone can get the show on their cell phone. Only certain people, like with iPhones or whatever. Some people actually have to call into the show if they're using their phone. But all right, we'll try another one. See if this is someone listening or someone that actually wants to talk. Hello, caller.
Hey, I had a question for your guest, right?
Someone just got a question. This sounds like Maddie.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, hey, Matt.
Hey, I've actually had a couple questions for him.
Shoot, man.
All right, here we go. I was curious what his thoughts were on the whole, Jade Helm pertaining to Planet X, and in the aftermath after the flyby, what he thinks about the world's militaries. Will there be a world war and a battle for power in the aftermath? I mean, I just don't see China, Russia, and the United States getting along. So I'll take his comments on that off the air. Thanks, guys.
Awesome, man. Thanks for calling.
Okay, thanks.
Good questions, caller. I think Jade Helm I think the purpose of Jade Helm is to actually have a pretext for creating FOBs, forward operating bases, for when martial law is declared.
Right.
And martial law could follow on shortly afterwards. What you're seeing is, and also, I think Jade Helm it's going to be extended into October or November. They'll drag it out because what they're doing is on all of these Walmart stores, they've got all these shipping containers behind the store, and they're empty because that's what they're going to do. They're going to take everything out of the stores and put them all in the shipping containers. And but what they're doing on the inside, and I'm seeing from stuff that's being released, they're really, really revamping the inside. And people have to understand that the Walmart's ordering system, their inventory ordering system, is integrated with the DoD. It's perfectly seamless. So they can go into these stores, go into their back office computer systems, and they can order military strikes, bullets, MREs, anything they want, because it's all tied in. And it's Jade Helm is they're getting it all set up, they're getting it in place, but also you look at what they're training. The training is going to be principally at night, and they're going to be seeing how stealthy they are in going into neighborhoods undetected. And so one of the things that they're asking local police departments to do is to share with them people calling in and reporting strange behavior in the neighborhoods. So also the fact that they have designated Texas and Utah as enemy states, I think is very serious, because you have in Texas, it's a gun state, It's very patriotic. It's also one state that has the right of secession. Okay, when Texas was its own sovereign nation before it joined the United States, and so part of its deal with joining with the United States was that it could secede anytime it wanted. So here they are, they're rehearsing how to arrest the governor and the legislature of the state of Texas as part of their training. I think I lived in Texas for 10 years, and I can tell you the second most popular topic next to football was cessation. And this is now it's a little too real. It's a little too scary. And it's something that, they're setting it up. But, I mean, you just look at the way the exercise is organized, all right? They're preparing to – I mean, this is what they did in Iraq and Afghanistan. When they wanted to arrest somebody, they didn't go during the day. They'd go in the middle of the night and bust down the door.
Yep.
All right. So they're taking this, counterinsurgency kind of a tactic, what they've learned over there, and they're applying it here. We're getting set up for that kind of a same situation. So, I think Fletcher is very much on the money. And there's going to be the declaration of martial law is not going to be because of Planet X. They're not going to do that. It'll be something else. Maybe we have a currency collapse.
Right.
That's what we've been predicting. It's going to have something to do with the economic collapse. Right.
There'll be it's people are going to see their IRAs and 401ks. There'll be banking account confiscations.
Gone.
All of a sudden, people who've been saving up for their, their nest egg retirements are all of a sudden going to get bank stock that is like, hey, find somebody that wants to buy it from you.
Yeah.
You'll freeze in hell first, and that people are going to get angry about it. But I think Jade Helm, particularly through the southern states, tells me whatever's going to happen that's going to be difficult, this is the area that they expect it to happen, not in the northern states. So if you're living in California, if you're living in the South Belt from California to Florida, none of this bodes well. Not one bit of it. And then as far as it goes for afterwards, the world is pretty much, government's going to fall all over the place. What I would see for what survives the United States, because Washington, D.C. that's it. It's gone. Most likely what will happen in the United States is it will balkanize. You're going to have states that are going to form regional coalitions with, sharing borders. They'll share their militaries. Yep. So you might see something, like Colorado, Arizona, Utah, something like that. And they form a coalition. Then there would be these various different coalitions, and then, the federal government would be rendered toothless. Once the federal government goes in and takes out a state legislature, that's the end of the United States as we know it.
All right.
Period. That's the end of it. And after that, I could see there being, that kind of problem. So you have to prepare in stages. One thing, if people are smart, that they would do now while they have the opportunity is, if you don't have a U.S. passport now, get it. Because as they close things down, driver's licenses will no longer be valid for flying across state lines. Within a state, yes. It'll be like a Russian prospika, an internal passport. This will be a situation where if you're crossing state lines, if you're interstate, then you will need to have either a traditional passport book or a passport card. You can get the passport card for $30. The book and the card are $140 together, and it's wise investment for people if you think you're going to have the need to travel across state borders or go, for example, go up to Canada or into Mexico.
Right.
That's something to do that you can prepare for, and otherwise it's really it's taking it seriously. I mean, that's the bottom line. Taking it seriously. I mean, this I'm just going to wait and see,
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that, because I've got news for you. It's going to be like a nasty game of musical chairs when everyone looks up in the sky and they're seeing this system for the first time, and they're all pointing up, and they're pooping their collective pants and going, Harriet, you ever seen anything like that, And,
like the movie Independence Day.
Yeah. When the Anunnaki come, it'll be like that. City ships hovering over our capitals. They're coming for gold. We use aluminum for our weather modification, geoengineering efforts. The Anunnaki use gold. The flyby is going to be hard for their planet as well. It'll tear great holes in their atmosphere, so they have to restore that with gold. So they're going to leave the planet with a lot of gold. They're also going to take a lot of women for slave breeding programs, and we're not going to like that very much. So,
no, certainly.
It's not going to go over well with the folks back home. Let's put it that way. It is going to be a time of extreme hardship, but also, for years, I've been talking about this I published my first article, all right, in January 2002, or 2001, I think. I've been talking about it for a long time, and it's coming, okay? There's a dark cloud coming, but I'm kind of more focused right now on trying to find that silver lining. And that goes back to what that caller was asking about, because, you see, it's a given. We will survive, period. It is a given. We will rebuild. That will happen. And it is a given that we will go to space, because this is going to be the last survivable flyby of the Planet X system through the core of our system. The next time around, Earth is just going to be roasted. Absolutely. Just like in the movie Knowing, that's what's going to happen. All right?
Just gone. Disintegrated.
It's just going to, the whole surface of the planet is going to be incinerated, and then Gaia is going to start all over. And then there will be a whole new, it's going to be a whole new kind of thing. Someone else is going to be the top dog. Ain't going to be us. That means we got to get the heck out of Dodge. That's the reason why they're spending so much money and working so hard on finding extra solar.
I'm getting out of here, sure.
And that's the whole point of it. There's a lot of races, a lot of ETs out there. They got a big interest in what's going on, because we're going to leave this planet one of two ways. We're either going to go out into space like Anunnaki stormtroopers, watch the movie Avatar, that's who we'll be.
Yep.
Blood-sucking, exploiting bastards.
Yep.
Or we're going to have a Star Trek future. And that's what I'm pulling for.
Me
that we have that Star Trek future. Okay? And it's serious, fellas, because Roddenberry really tapped into the zeitgeist. That's what our species really wants. We don't want to go out there, like a bunch of corporate miseries. We want to go out and be welcomed as a peaceful and light spacefaring race.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what I want to see for us.
So what are your thoughts on Elon Musk? You like what he's trying to do?
Elon Musk?
Yeah, Elon Musk. Oh, you don't... SpaceX?
Oh, SpaceX?
Yeah.
Well, I find it's kind of funny that, we're probably got transwarp already, and we're still building chemical rockets.
I thought about that once, too, because the stuff that they're doing with, like, Elon Musk and SpaceX, and, like, what's, I guess, NASA or whatever got going on. Like, they've always got something secretive going on, so I feel like they got technology that's way ahead of what Elon Musk and SpaceX has right now. I mean, they're just testing stuff out right now. I mean, he wants to send people to Mars and stuff like that, but it seems like, the stuff they're testing out there, it almost reminds me of back during the Nazi days when they were testing out rockets and they were flying all over the place and not getting where they were supposed to and stuff. So, I mean, I commend him for the work that he's doing. I think it's a good thing. I think he's got a lot of great ideas, but I think the technology is already out there, and he maybe might be a little bit behind on some of the secret technology that they have that they haven't really showed us. So,
well, I think what they're doing right now is they've got more satellites out there doing imaging, looking for extrasolar Earths or candidates for extrasolar Earths than they're publicly saying. It reminds me of that great line from Contact: "Why build one when you can build two for twice the price?"
Right.
And what they're doing is I worked on a project for Lockheed Martin, conversion of a KH-1 spy satellite to civilian purposes, and these things can put down so much data that it just takes weeks, if not months, for computers to claw through it. And what's happening now is, they're pumping it down in vast quantities, and while everyone is sweating out the tribulation, I think the elites are going to be down there sorting through all their data sets and looking for candidate Earths, candidate potentials, and then once we get through the flyby and the dust settles, that's when they're going to start launching their probes, and they're going to start sending probes out into space. And so that's what I think that they've got planned.
We can certainly see evidence of them preparing for such events.
Yeah, they're doing it. So I think your caller asked about the military aspect and the wars. I think it really hits on that central issue of, all right, we are going to go to space, but how are we going to do that? As Anunnaki stormtroopers, or are we going to have a Star Trek future? It sounds hokey, but that's really what it is.
No, it makes sense. It really does.
Yeah. So I think our species, if we are allowed to evolve naturally, we will choose the more enlightened path. But we're manipulated, divided, made to be antagonistic towards each other. It's by Anunnaki researchers, it's widely held Anunnakis are the ones that gifted us religion for the purpose of dividing us. And the story of, the Tower of Babel story actually originates with the Anunnaki. They were the ones that used to be that there was one common language for the planet. They were the ones who decided to change that and to divide us as a species so that we would be less of a threat to them, easier to manage. And so there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit. But in chaos is opportunity. Every Passover is celebrated every year, and Jewish families get together and they celebrate Passover. And this is when the Jewish people were freed from bondage in Egypt. Well, I believe that Moses, being a high prince of Egypt, knew Planet X was coming and understood that in chaos is opportunity. And that with the flyby of Planet X, that there would be an opportunity to free his people. And he took advantage of that.
Oh, yeah, easily. That's what turned the waters red. That's what parted the Red Sea, is because the rotation stopped and the sloshing of the oceans and the water. Yeah,
it's the Egyptian accounts are very the Egyptians in the Colburn Bible. And the reason why the Colburn Bible was written, initially it was called the Great Book by the Egyptians. It was the size of a modern-day encyclopedia, actually. It was vast. Only a fourth of it now exists. And it's a compilation of both Egyptian and Celtic wisdom texts. But what they tell us about it, about the Exodus story, was that the Pharaoh of Exodus was leading the charge, and that there was a great slaughter, but then the water returned and the Pharaoh of Exodus perished. And after Moses made it over to the other side, the party really started for Egypt because they were invaded from the south, because Exodus was a global event, and people in the south knew that the Egyptians had vast stockpiles of grains in their granaries, and they came up to take a spoil and to get some gold. And the Egyptians, after, especially then the word got out that they had lost an army chasing after the Hebrews. That was just an invitation, and Egypt was able to repel the invasions, but at great cost to itself. So the Colburn Bible is what they wrote, was basically their version of a 9/11 report. And what they wanted to know was, how was it that this scrappy Jewish God whooped their pantheon of gods? That's what they really wanted to know. And they went to the far extremes of their trading realm, and during the day, scribes were tallying bricks and, jugs of wine and whatnot, doing commerce, but at night they were collecting the folklore and history of all these different races. One of the books, Sons of Fire, there's 11 books in the Colburn, and one of them, called the Sons of Fire, I believe is the only remaining history text from the ancient Phoenicians who were wiped out by the Romans. And so they were looking. They never really found the answer to it, although the work was quite brilliant, and it did predict current events. It said that a harbinger of this coming flyby would be when the fall of the Soviet Union and the rise of radical Islam. They predicted that 3,600 years ago. Dead on.
It's interesting, actually, that recent movie, Noah, I believe it was. No, not Noah. The one with the Moses, excuse me. The one, I forget who stars in it. But, it was actually pretty good.
Christian Bale?
Yeah, you got it. It depicted the whole...
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Did you see that?
Sorry. It just didn't work for me. It's like,
I like that
story about Jews, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. You got to look past it.
It worked really good. It's just Christian Bale. I love Christian Bale. He's a fabulous actor, but he just didn't work. He doesn't come across as a nice Jewish boy. I'm sorry.
Right.
I watched like half of that movie, and that
it
was
depicted the whole Planet X thing quite well, as though the person who made it knew that Planet X is what caused the whole thing to begin with, and especially the part with the Red Sea when it parted. That was wonderful. That seemed just as though that seemed very accurate as far as the tide going very low and being to the side. I thought that was excellent.
I thought that was it was excellent. There was, and it was really true. Moses tends to be glorified, but he was one kick butt of a military general. Yeah. I mean, he was ruthless. What they don't show is that, Moses ruled with an iron fist. Yeah. So, we tend to romanticize, but still the same. I think Moses he understood what was going to happen, took advantage of it. He was a brilliant tactical commander. And the story, though, the importance of the story for me is that the flyby, the chaos of the flyby caused the unshackling of the bonds of slavery for the Hebrews in Egypt. Okay? Well, on a grander scale, we could unshackle, with this flyby, we have the potential to unshackle the entire species. All right? I think it's worth it. And, if we don't, because the elites are going to, they're going to come up from their underground bunkers and they're going to offer trinkets. It's like the Indians selling, for a handful of baubles, they sold off an island. We call it Manhattan. All right? And that's what's going to happen again. And if it happens that way, then we're going to be consigned to countless generations of slavery, fellas. It's going to be bad. And I have a personal interest in it because I, like the majority of human beings on the planet, I do believe in reincarnation, and I sure as hell don't want to come back into a slave world. You want to see what the elites want for us? You want to see what the elite vision of the future is going to be? Hunger Games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Hunger Games. Go watch that. That is their vision of the future for us.
I believe it.
When an elite dies, where do you think they'll be reincarnated to?
Who cares?
Yeah.
As long as they're not near us, who cares?
Another planet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
With a lot of fire on it.
It's like, it reminds me of that great in the beginning of Fiddler on the Roof, and they're in this little Russian shuttle in Russia, and everybody runs up to the rabbi and they say, "Rabbi, is there a proper blessing for the Tsar?" And the rabbi thinks a bit and he says, "May God bless and keep the Tsar far away from us." I think it's the same thing. Personally, I think these people are going to become living anachronisms, and that would be a fitting fate for them.
Well said.
I have a lot more faith in human. See, everybody sees all the doom and gloom and all the bad stuff because, first off, it's sexy. It sells movies,
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Who wants to go see, we're going to have an enlightened world? Like, that sucks. Give us Mad Max, Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Boy, that's sexy stuff. It keeps you on cable for 25,000 years. But really, once the elites are no longer able to keep us divided and we can actually talk to one another, some pretty good things can happen. I have more faith in our species. Yeah, they're the people that are, and they're always going to be the good, bad, and the ugly. But I think there's more good people out there than we think. The problem is bad people have megaphones.
Yeah.
And the good people are just quiet.
Yep.
Enduring.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe the good folk are going to understand. This is our chance. They're going to understand it's our chance for freedom, and so I look optimistically in the future. I mean, let me put it to you this way. Imagine a world where there is no more special interest in their government goons that'll go into these guys that create create free energy devices or things that'll cure cancer or anything else that's a challenge to these big financial interests who have the government in their pocket. The government goes out and does their dirty work for them. The FBI goes in and will arrest these people and seize their labs for no other reason than, oh my gosh, a special interest is upset with you. What happens when there are no more government goons who can go shut these people down? And all of a sudden, we have a nation full of Nikola Teslas that are actually free to do beautiful things to help humanity.
Yes.
Imagine that. All right?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. So, I'm more interested now in looking for the silver lining. Dark cloud is coming. Okay, just deal with it. Or don't. But we do have an opportunity to do some great things, and the potential is there. The potential is there if we are willing, to pay the sacrifice. That's the open thing. But I remember one time I was feeling really sad about all this, especially when I realized what the agenda is to cause the death of as many people as possible. And I see preppers out there that have all these big stockpiles of Kraft macaroni and cheese, and all of it's made with GMO cornstarch, GMO flour. This stuff will destroy your lower gut. That's where 70% of your immune system is. So it's death food. People don't know it because all of these preppers think they're clever because they never stop to eat what the hell they're stockpiling. They keep eating their fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh meats, egg, chicken, whatnot, and they keep stockpiling all of this crap in packages and cans. They never bothered to take a couple of weeks to eat it. If they did, they would all have a case of the runs that wouldn't stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Acid stomach, irritable bowel syndrome. They'd all start having, inflammatory diseases. I mean, it just there's no good side. There's no good upside to this food, and but they don't know it because they're so busy being clever, sticking it on the shelves so that they go, looky what I got. And this whole notion of, well, yeah, it's GMO, but when you're starving to death, you'll be glad to have it. Not likely, because you'll be dead from some sort of communicable disease before then, after your lower gut has been totally destroyed. There's things that people have to do to start planning and preparing, and it's like everyone's looking for someone else to show them what to do. Go show yourself. Be a majority of one. Lead yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody
Absolutely.
wants somebody else to make the decisions for them so that they can turn around and hang them for a bad decision.
Right. No, you could take some initiative.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The ancient Egyptians are very clear. They say the stout-hearted will not go down to destruction. And I believe that.
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. Marshall, listen, we went a little past schedule here, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. If you want to, plug your site and plug any of your books, anything you want to get out real quick, and
sure. If you just go to my site, yowza.com, YOWUSA.com. You can also find it at marshallmasters.com. There's 2 L's. And everything, that's your portal, everything you're going to need, books, knowledge, most everything I do, I give away for free. Always have.
Oh, nice.
If you click on, up on the top, you click on videos, that's the first link. There's a series of videos, but the first link that says video, when you click on that, it's a 100-minute immersion crash course into Planet X, and it's the equivalent of about 4 years of personal research compressed into 100 minutes.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
That's great.
Perfect.
So,
well, man, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes.
And taking the time to go over those things. And
What?
yeah, man, we love talking about this kind of stuff. Anyway, so we'd like to get away from the politics and stuff here and there,
Yeah.
It seems that our listeners like to hear this stuff more anyway, so it kind of works out for everybody. Plus, it's important. It's important stuff. It's not like it's not important. Stuff people need to know.
Yeah. But again, always remember, people cling to the bliss of their ignorance like jealous lovers.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But it's been fun, fellas.
Absolutely,
right.
man.
Yeah, it's good conversation.
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You guys are going to pick up the check, right?
I got the check, and I'm probably going to have to order my co-host here another round.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, man. So it's nice talking to you, and hopefully we can get you back on at some point, and maybe down the road, closer to when this is on, maybe you'll have some more information for us. We'll see.
Okay. All right, fellas.
Have a good
Thanks for a
evening.
good show. You too.
Right.
There. That was awesome, man.
Yep.
I like getting
Yeah,
to
it was.
that side of of it, you know. I mean, because like we had Bob on for, I mean, like, well, I mean, I guess we were on for a while. So, but Bob, man, he does like the whole interview. You don't even need to like interview Bob. He just like almost interviews himself when he comes on the show. I mean, that's what on YouTube, man. That's one of our top views. So, plus people like the Planet X stuff. So, this will do good on YouTube, also, I'm sure.
That was a great interview. It was awesome.
Is Michael still alive? Awake?
I am alive. What's up?
Genocide.
Mark was telling me how he was smoking before the show. I was like, dude, can't. All I have is like dabs, man. If I do those before the show, I'm just gonna be like,
what?
Yeah. Anyway.
So now you doing them?
No, I just kind of. No, I'm really, because I went and listened to his interview again, the one that I had listened to there, the last one that he was on, and that same night they had Mark Sargent, who was someone had recommended I get him on the show to talk about flat Earth, and not that Eric Dubé douchebag, and I actually listened to it today. I listened to the interview with Mark Sargent about the flat Earth. He comes off a little different, which, I mean, I don't agree with him, but seems like someone I would have on the show to talk about it. But Eric Dubé is just a scam artist. He's just, you guys.
He's an idiot.
Jeff, you watch Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
Now, am I wrong or am I wrong? Does he not sound like what's his face?
He sounds like him, but the guy on the show is smart.
Well,
obviously, genius.
Obviously, that's a whole different thing, dude. But I'm saying his voice sounds just like him, like that annoying, nerdy, like
it's
voice.
Exactly what it is.
Strangle him, dude.
Nerdy is cool. I like nerds, but that guy is just
dude. No, yeah, and so that voice, like even in the show, dude, like in Silicon Valley, dude, he's pretty annoying. Him and oh Christ, I can't think of his name. The dude, the really weird guy that they let move in with him that was sleeping out in the garage for a while that they know about. Remember, what's his name? The dude that does all their finances and stuff. Remember, he handles it. He's like the outcast of the whole place. You know what I'm talking about, Jeff?
Oh, on the Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
The guy who's like really simple and he talks in German in his sleep.
Yes, that guy, the really weird guy that they like. He was like living out in their garage for like ever, and they didn't even know he was out there.
Yeah, that's great. The show is hilarious.
They just walk out there, and there's like a bed and shit. They're like,
didn't the show just end the last episode of this season?
What's that?
Was it just the last episode of the season?
I don't. No, that couldn't have been. No, I think there's still more.
Good. I'm gonna look that up because I really want to see that again.
There's a couple more. I don't know. I can actually check that right now. Yeah, no, there should be. I'm not sure how many episodes they do in a season. Don't they only do like 8?
So, oh, nice. There is. There's a No, they do more than that. 10 episodes.
Okay, 10 episodes, and we're on 8, right? Or
yeah. So good. I have one episode. I didn't see the recent one.
Oh yeah, man.
The recent one was hilarious. Adult content. That was just so funny.
The one from this Sunday?
Yeah, the recent one. No, the one from the 24th. I didn't see one from Sunday. The one before Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think we can hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just like
la 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 la.
Oh, I'm blocking out.
Yeah, you're cutting out. Something about the 24.
It's clear now. It only cuts out for like a few seconds, then you're back to normal.
Yeah, the last episode, the one before the last was hilarious, so this one I'm going to see tonight. Good stuff.
I just don't watch that much TV.
The last Game of Thrones was fucking badass.
It was the first one of the season that I liked. Really.
It was badass, dude.
There's only one other episode I like this season.
The next two, from what I've been told, like people that have read the books and shit and looked at the titles of the next 2 episodes, they should be pretty good too.
Yeah, I hear. There's going to be another season though, right?
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Oh,
Never watched it.
That's dude, you got to watch that show, man. It's so fucking badass.
Game of Thrones is epic.
Dude, it's full of action and titties and sex and everything. It's just got everything, dude. I mean, it is.
I've never even watched The Walking
Dead. I can't say too
Dude,
much.
Walking Dead sucks compared to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Walking Dead.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat as you, Michael. I don't watch TV at all.
Walking Dead sucks. Don't even watch it. Waste your
Well,
time.
I don't watch
Sometimes
TV.
I watch
I watch it all on the computer. I don't like watching on the TV.
Right.
That's no different.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Mark, you watching Netflix and shit. Same
Yeah,
idea.
no, exactly. I watch Netflix. Yep. Yep. Oh, exactly. And I have seen The Walking Dead actually this winter.
Yeah, that's bull. I don't like it.
Well, anyway, I'd like to talk a little bit more about stuff, but we have like a minute left of the show, so yeah, we're gonna wrap up. I spent 3 years researching Nibiru flyby-related topics, including catastrophic Earth changes, crop circles, impact events, and future technologies. Welcome to the show, Marshall.
Well, it's nice to be here. Boy, that old bio just keeps following me. I've actually been doing this since 1999. 3 years, it's kind of like that goes back a ways.
I think you got to let George Norrie he's got to change up your bio on the Coast to Coast page, because that's usually where I go to, because there's usually some good bios on there.
That's where it's at. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me know. I'll just have to. I'll give his producer an email and just ask him to update that a little bit, and that'll be helpful.
That's not the first time it's happened. I think because we have a lot of guests that are on Coast to Coast. We have them on here because I actually use Coast to Coast because I'm an avid listener, and I listen every night when I go to bed, and I lay there in bed and I listen, and so I use it as a tool to hear new guests or whatever to get on the show. So I tend to use the bio that they have there because I figure it's usually up to date because it's Coast to Coast. But we have run a couple. I think there's been a couple other instances where they weren't up to date, and I've actually changed a couple myself because I noticed that they were quite a bit out of date. So yeah. Anyway, that's where your bio came from. So.
Well, now I know. Thank you so much. I can track that wily wascal down.
Yeah. So, Marshall, we've been it's been coming up a little bit here and there on the show. We have done a show on Planet X before. We had Bob Fletcher on, and he was on for 2 hours talking about it, and. But we obviously got into more than Planet X. We got into some other things. But anyway, so it's been coming up a little bit here and there. So I figured, well, I'll get another guest on instead of Bob this time. Maybe someone that has maybe some different point of view. And of course, I heard you were on Coast to Coast somewhat recently, and I didn't hear it that night because I fell asleep because it comes on at 1 o'clock in the morning over here, and so. I have a Coast Insiders account, so I can listen to that stuff the next morning. So I listened to your interview. And you were on this, I'm pretty sure you were on the same night. The second guest was Mark Sargent about the flat Earth theory. So, and we even did a show on the flat Earth here because we think it's a little crazy. We don't believe that the Earth is flat. I don't know what your opinion is on that. We don't even need to get into it. I really don't want to. But anyways,
it's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at
that. and we try not to give it too much attention anyway. But yeah, and I actually thought about maybe having that Mark Sargent on the show because the other guy that has this documentary and whatever, we don't really like him anyway. He just was kind of really off-putting. Didn't seem, I don't know. But anyway, we have you on to talk about Planet X. Maybe you got some new information that we could talk about, but I'm curious. What was it? You were working for CNN. Now, did you start getting into that stuff while you were working there?
No, that was back in the '80s when it was really a news. Now, I agree with Larry King. It's the Cartoon News Network.
Yeah.
It's a joke compared to what it was when I was there. When I was there, it was a lean, mean news machine, and it was an amazing time to be involved with that organization. But that was before there was all the consolidation where just a handful of corporations own all the media. They've turned it all into this Orwellian propaganda machines. And so that was a time. It was really cool. I remember.
So it was really a time when they actually reported news then, and they actually went after stories.
Yeah, if you remember CNN in the old days, I mean, Turner was running it when I was there. It was something else. I would go in and meet with producers out on the newsroom floor. As you remember, they used to see all the reporters sitting at their desks because they were actually doing investigative reporting. Who'd have thought it? And, man, to be honest with you, I didn't enjoy those visits because, I mean, the tension in that room, you could cut it with a knife. I used to walk out of there with chest pains. Jeez, that was tough. There was so much competition. Now they just read what's given to them. Yep. But, different days altogether. And, I got moved to Texas and then got into the computer industry. And when you're in television, eventually you either get rich or you grow up and go somewhere else.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, and, it got me here, but it was natural curiosity of things. I had a travel business going to Russia. And that was really what started me down the path because in the 90s I was going from taking the polar route on Aeroflot to from San Francisco to Moscow. And it might surprise people, but the Russians make more comfortable passenger jets than we do. And on the way back, it was always during the day. And first time, it was 2003, January, and I saw the Arctic and grew up in Arizona, and I mean this was the first time I'd seen blue ice. When I saw it the first time, it was just beautiful, vast expanses of snow and rock outcroppings, blue ice. I was mesmerized for hours, and especially by the blue ice because that's old ice. And the only time I ever saw blue ice when I was a kid in Phoenix was you went to 7-Eleven, put some in a cone, and they'd pour some blue syrup on it. And that was all I knew about blue ice. And I watched it steadily over the years. I quit my travel business in '98, and my last trip over the Arctic was in '98. And what I saw was a steady deterioration over the years. Always was flying over in December, back in January, because that's how I ran my business. And, I came on that last trip, and it just looked like the whole Arctic looked like the busted windshield of a wrecked car in the junkyard. And I said, man, they can call me a tree hugger. I got to figure this out. And that's what really started me on the path of trying to understand global warming, what we call weather change, and that was something where we were looking to see if the man-made causes were the principal engine of it. We didn't see enough evidence of that. I mean, we put out a lot of carbon, but to be blunt, a couple of good volcano farts will do as much. And, we started looking at the sun, and solar radiance was increasing, has been since 1940. And then we were wondering, okay, well, if this is a solar-driven thing, that would be consistent that the atmospheres of the other bodies in our system would be perturbed like ours. Well, that's exactly what we found. All right. So every planet with an atmosphere is showing atmospheric perturbations, weirdness. Matter of fact, Mars had a period of warming so intense that if something like that were to happen here on Earth, we would become extinct as a species.
Right.
So this is pretty serious, and that then led us, I was doing this work with a couple other folks who are like myself, Mensons, and Mensa is a society for people who have genius IQs and are socially challenged. And we were really looking at, all right, it's solar radiance. Is this something that is a normal solar cycle, or is there something else? And sunspot activity, these kind of records go back 300 years. We weren't seeing anything in that period of time that was consistent with it. No ancient folklore or historical reports. So at that point, we started looking at the possibility of the sun interacting with another body in our system that we're not aware of, an interloper, if you will. And that was our path to Planet X, which is actually a mini constellation. It's we are in a binary system. Now, for those that can remember, back to the 70s and the 80s, there was actually a whole lot of very intelligent conversation about it by professional astronomers and by the media. However, there was a mysterious death of a U.S. naval astronomer, Robert Harrington. He was the chief astronomer there in Washington at the observatory. And this was after he kind of, I guess, did 3 strikes and you're out. First was he wrote a brilliant paper on Planet X. Second was he had a special telescope constructed and sent to a United States observatory in New Zealand, which all of the image plates that were, all of that was captured, was sent to NASA and never seen again. And he gave an interview to Zecharia Sitchin, author of The 12th Planet, and actually showed during the interview Planet X in the orbit of Planet X, and he's pointing it out. Then, not long after that, he dies of a mysterious quick-onset cancer that has been known to be used in targeted assassinations. And after his death, the topic hit the wall. I mean, it's just like we trended all the data, the amount of reporting by the, major publications, the Trib, New York Times, Post, you name it. And then right after Harrington's death, boom, like that, all went dark. And pretty much stayed that way. So, and we actually document that on our site. And in my video, Planet X 101, Who, What, Why, Where, When, and How, if you watch that, you just go to my website, yowusa.com, click on the video link, and I have a 100-minute course. You can watch that. In 100 minutes, you'd get the equivalent of what would normally take most people 2 to 3 years of study to figure out. And in there, you get to 1988, because I present the whole chronology of it going back a few hundred years. And there is an astronomer for NASA, his name is Anderson, still on the payroll, who said, yes, we're in a binary system, and yes, there is a Planet X. So, of course, once I brought that out public, the Google database where we found the news accounts was expunged, and I was thoroughly smashed for that and harassed. But that's just, that's the way life is in this genre. It's coming, and it's going to be here. But the truth is, people cling to the bliss of their ignorance like jealous lovers. And, they just, it's like ufology. We published videos with images, tracking, it doesn't matter. It's like ufology. You can have piles and piles and piles and piles and piles and piles and piles of photographs, testimony, and people go, well, I don't know about that.
Of course.
All right. So that's it. But I find that the people really who do get it and want to get through it are people who have been in awareness since they were children. Interestingly enough, that's a recurring pattern.
Sure.
And as for the rest, the ones that are going, oh, they're all crazy as peach orchard boars. Okay. Well, let's be honest. It's a global tribulation that's coming in. Somebody's got to do the die-in. So it's better that the ones who are mocking those who are in awareness stand up and fall left and right. Good for them.
Heck yeah.
There you go, Michael.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We were talking about this yesterday.
But I'll tell you, the one place and I tell my folks that there's going to come a time, an event I call the rage. And that is when all these people who have been laughing at everyone else are going, oh my God, We're going to die because we've been lied to. They're going to get mad. They're going to hit the streets. They're going to want to riot. They're going to, what you got to do is when they do that, they go one way, you go
the
opposite direction.
Yeah.
Better yet, you just don't want to be anywhere around all of that in the first place. And because we got a government that has acquired 1.6 billion rounds of hollow point ammunition, and they're going to use it. It'll make Kent State look like, a finger bowl compared to the entree they're going to serve up. Won't be tear gas, it won't be water cannons. It'll be 2 warnings, and then they'll open up with machine guns, and there'll be a whole lot of dead bodies laying around, and then people will get the message, shut up, you face. And it worked at Kent State, for those that can remember, the riots and the protests over Vietnam.
I don't remember, but I know the story well.
Yeah, Kent State brought all that to a screeching halt. That was it. Boom. All the protests stopped.
Yep.
Because